Hello guys, and welcome to my War Thunder patch 1.39 preview slash, depending on when I upload this, overview, because I have delayed this quite a bit and the patch is actually just over the horizon, so I may not actually get this out before the patch. But in this video I'm going to be discussing all the new features and some of the new planes that are being brought to War Thunder in patch 1.39, but mainly all the new flight model changes and what have you. Alright, I'm just going to kick this video off by showing you what I think is the most important gameplay change that 1.39 is bringing us, and that is the extension of the battle rating system by 1.0. Now it extends to 8.7, with most of the Korean War era planes being in the 8 battle rating. Most of the German planes stayed the same. All the Me-262s are still at 7.3, and the Canadier Sabre is obviously 8.7, as well as the German MiG-15. The LA-15, I believe, is 8.7, and the LA-174 is 8.3. The MiG-9s were bumped up a bit. The MiG-15s are 8.7, and the Meteor F-3s are 6.7, and the Vampire is 7.7. There's the Meteor F-3s, as I said. The Meteor F4 long wing is 7.7, the Meteor F4 short wing is 8.0, and the F8 is 8.7. And for the Japanese, the Shushwai is still 6.7, and the Japanese Honor Saber is obviously 8.7. Here I'm going to be discussing the new planes that have gotten the new G-suit modification that just allows you to pull more Gs before G-lock. This modification is fitted to the P-51, all three of them, I believe. I do not know if it's fitted to the F-82. Doesn't look like the F-82 gets it. But all three P-51s get it, as I said. The F-84, I believe, gets it. Yes. The F-80A gets it. The F-80C gets it. And I'm pretty sure that all three Sabres receive the G-suit. Yep. Yep, all three Sabres get it. And I believe the Bearcats get it as well. Yep, there it is, G-suit. Both Bearcats. Yep. And the F9F obviously gets it. And just making sure the F9F5 gets it as well. And then moving on, Russia does not get any G-suit modifications. The Meteor F3 gets it. All the Meteors get it, actually. The Vampire gets it. I'm not sure if the Spitfire Mark 22 and 24 get them. Let me check. No, it does not look like the Spitfires get them. Nope, no G-suits for the Spitfires. So it looks like the only people that get G-suits are Britain and America for only specific late war / Korean War planes. Alright, now moving on to something that caused a bit of controversy in the War Thunder community, the Realistic Battles Vector Indicator. This thing basically just looked like the lead indicator from arcade battles, but it was in realistic battles. And it did not show you how much to lead, but it just showed you the vector, and you can see an example of what it looked like there with the screenshot. It just showed the direction the aircraft was traveling, but that's half the formula for leading any shot, and the devs were trying to make the case that it doesn't help you at all. But the War Thunder community said otherwise, that it does help you, and they actually took it out. In the last dev server iteration that I was on, which actually was the final dev server, it did not seem to have the vector indicator anymore. Alright, and if you thought you just saw me flying a green and purple Wildcat, you were indeed not tripping balls. I did edit that skin myself. And this is kind of what the new skin editing system looks like. You just click on the magic wand in the skin where you would usually change your skin. You click on the magic wand to create a user template, and it gives you files that look like this in a program like Photoshop or GIMP, and then you can just play around with it till your heart's content and design your own skins, basically. And of course that green Wildcat was the end result of me tinkering around with the user template, by utilizing my expert Photoshop skills. Alright, just to elaborate on it a little more, this is the default Wildcat skin as you can see, and you just switch to the user skin by switching skins as you would normally to the user template. And here is my green Wildcat that I designed myself. Yes, it is beautiful. Yes, it is for sale. If you're not sold on it yet, just look at how useful this thing is in the field. You're practically invisible. I will be selling this for a modest fee of $100, actually $99.99 on warthundernexus.com, but that is besides the point. Moving on to flight models. And since there is an absolute metric butt ton of new flight model changes, I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible, and if you have questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I want to start by getting all the bigger flight model updates out of the way first, and I want to start with the Bearcat because I think that's the biggest flight model update out of them all, and this is for a couple of reasons. One, because absolutely everything about this aircraft was wrong. The speed, the roll rate, the climb rate, the turn rate, everything had to be changed, and everything was changed. Two, because each Bearcat actually got their own unique flight model because of one thing, and I'll show you that in a second. And this is what I'm talking about. You can see here I'm showing you that the manifold pressure on an F8F1 is a little over 65, and this is an F8F1B. It's running at 72 inches of manifold pressure. And what this does is it makes one Bearcat, the F8F1, run like a Bearcat. Because in real life, the F8F1 was set to run at 65 inches of manifold pressure, while the other one, the F8F1B, is set at 72 inches, which makes it end up flying more like Rare Bear than a Bearcat. To give you a few examples of what exactly I'm talking about, the F8F1 can now fly in level flight at a maximum speed of about 635 kilometers per hour at sea level, while the F8F1B now goes at around 660 max speed at sea level, and that speed actually matches that of the Tempest II, previously the fastest prop plane in the game, but it also climbs even better than a regular Bearcat. So basically what that means for gameplay and balance is the F8F1B is going to be the biggest seal clubber in the game by far. Everyone and their mother is going to want to fly it, but no one is going to get to fly it because there's going to be so many of them in the queue, and I doubt there's going to be that many Germans willing to get their K4s and TA-152s seal clubbed by a plane that wouldn't have even been realistic to see in the skies had the Bearcat been in Europe at the end of World War II. So besides Gaijin's decision to give the F8F1B ungodly performance, the Bearcat's flight model is actually looking really good. It's turning very well now, it's rolling very well now. Except at low speeds, I feel like it's underperforming at low speeds and overperforming at really high speeds. I'll have to check later on when I do a flight model analysis of this plane, but overall, yeah, the plane's looking great. Everything seems to be pretty much in order. And the next biggest flight model update of the patch is another American plane, the P-38G Lightning. This flight model has been anticipated for a long time by a lot of people. We've been waiting for a decent flight model for this plane for about a year probably, and Gaijin has finally given us something decent. I actually didn't notice many things wrong with this flight model, and only a couple things I need to point out, and I'll point that out near the end of this. But as a general overview of what they've changed with the plane, the initial roll rate is better. The plane now comes close to at least matching its historical speeds, at least below 20,000 feet, and its climb rate up to 20,000 feet without WEP at military power is almost spot on. And those are a few general characteristics of the new flight model, and I am very impressed with what Gaijin's done with this plane. And now onto those funky, quirky characteristics that I was talking about. The plane now generates a lot of lift apparently, probably due to those new Fowler flaps they added that improved the turn rate. You can see there I have to pitch the nose down about 5 degrees to maintain level flight. The aircraft having the contra-rotating propellers should have pretty much no torque at all, and it didn't last patch, but now it seems to have slight torque to the right, unless this is just a glitch with my joystick. Could be, but I didn't think it was. The aircraft now has a tendency to go into a violent flat spin whenever you exceed the angle of attack, and it's very difficult to recover from a spin or a stall. You can see here I can't recover at all. I'm putting the rudder to the opposite direction of the spin. I let go of the joystick, I point the nose down, and I only recover at the very end far too late. And this, as I said, is a tendency, not a freak occurrence. I had this happen to me the majority of the times that I put the aircraft into a spin by turning too hard. There's one of the few exceptions. I actually managed to recover quickly and didn't go into a violent flat spin, but I try it right after, and I get the same result as I did before. And this goes against everything I've ever read about the P-38 and its stall characteristics. And moving on to the Ki-84, this plane has also had a revamped flight model. It maneuvers much better generally, it handles much better at low speeds, and it climbs much better at low speeds. Its takeoff run has been shortened, and it's generally a pleasant plane to fly now. It's not the monstrosity that we had last patch. However, they actually improved the climb rate a little bit too much, and now it actually overperforms. I did not test the level flight speed, so I can't comment on that at the moment. And next up, German jet jockeys rejoice, because now you can actually fly your Me-262 at high altitudes and not be outran by P-51s. The plane is actually going very fast at, I think I'm at 25,000 feet right now, and it's performing close to like it should. And the F-86 Sabre flight model is receiving an important change. The F-86 F series is finally going to be able to roll similar to how it should be able to roll, due to it having completely hydraulically actuated control surfaces, similar to how modern jet fighters have their control surfaces completely controlled by either hydraulics or electricity. The F-86 F series was the same way. The only real limit to how fast the aircraft could roll would be the G tolerance of the actual pilot or the structural integrity of the plane, and so this is why it has such a ridiculously good roll rate. However, in-game, the F-86A is the same exact way pretty much, and to my knowledge, it only had hydraulically boosted control surfaces similar to the MiG-15 BIS, and if you see here, I'm at a much lower speed, and I can't even roll nearly as fast as the F-86A can roll at about 1,000 kilometers an hour, so there's something not right about that. The F-80C now has afterburner for whatever reason. No idea, don't ask me. However, on the bright side, the F-80C now has G-lock, so it can no longer pull those ridiculous 15G turns all day long like they used to. The Focke 190A5 had its takeoff run lengthened and its top speeds and climb rate tweaked a little bit. I'm not sure in exactly what way. I didn't bother to test both aircraft, the current and 1.39 version. The Meteor F3 had its takeoff run shortened, and for some reason it was given some form of afterburner. I don't really have enough experience with this plane to know how it performed in terms of speeds and climb rate before, so I didn't really bother testing any of that in the dev server. Out of the Meteor F4s, the only one that I could test was the long wing, and in that plane I could find that the energy retention seemed to have been adjusted a little bit. I don't think it's quite as good in 1.39, and also the climb rate was tweaked so that it was decreased by about 40 to 50%. The Ki-43 now has a wider turn circle, and it was correctly given the characteristics of having a downdraft carburetor. Both the IL-2 and the IL-2M are less maneuverable now. Their turn circles are wider, and I didn't really notice any difference with the IL-10 except for the fact that it actually seems to roll faster now. The Ki-61 is now capable of stalling. The I-185 now has realistic control stiffening at high speeds. Its ailerons actually do lock up now. The plane climbs much closer to how it should now. It's not quite completely accurate, but it's definitely believable now. The level flight speeds are still unchanged, however. The Ki-45 and Ki-102 all have more realistic handling and energy retention, as well as all of them now all being able to stall properly. The A6M2 and the A6M5 Zeros both received elevator control stiffening. However, all the Zeros still lack any sort of stall characteristics, and the A6M2 still lacks its downdraft carburetor characteristics like the Ki-43. The TBF Avenger flight model seems much better now. It actually seems like a heavy plane, like it was. and it doesn't seem like it'll be outmaneuvering and out-turning P-40s anymore, like I have done with it in the past. The Mosquito, both Mosquitoes in fact, the new one and the old one, now turn nowhere near as fast as the old Mosquito used to turn. So, sorry Mosquito pilots, no more dogfighting with the Yak-3s. I did not test their level flight speeds or climb rates, but the VF-109F series seems to be handling significantly better as far as roll rate and turn radius go. The VF-110 seems to handle slightly worse now, but it still turns suspiciously well. The CR-42 Falco evidently received a flight model update, but I did not notice a single difference with the airplane, at least in regards to handling, whenever I tested it. The P-63 King Cobra now has control stiffening modeled, and it also has a climb rate much closer to accurate, as well as level speeds are much closer to accurate. The devs claim that the Yak-7B, the Yak-1B, and the Yak-9T all were preliminary adjusted or fixed completely, but the Yak-7B and the Yak-1B still lack proper stall characteristics. The N1K2J and JA both had their top speeds and climb rate adjusted way down. I won't comment on whether or not I think this is accurate yet, but it's definitely closer to accurate than what it was, but I have a feeling that these planes were overcorrected. Alright, now I'm going to go over a few of the new planes in the 1.39 patch, the first of which is the USMC, the Marine Corps Corsair 1A, and this, to my knowledge, is basically just another F4U-1A with a different skin. I don't believe it was given any different performance, but I could be wrong. Alright, next up we have the F-82E, and this plane is basically two Mustangs just strapped together with 6 M3 machine guns firing in the mid part of the wing. The original purpose of this plane was to be able to make the long trek to Japan to escort the B-29 bombers, but they weren't needed for that, obviously. So yeah, the main purpose of this plane in real life was basically just to have a fighter with a lot of range, and there isn't really a need for that in War Thunder at the moment. You never really need more than 30 minutes of fuel for anything, at least I find. But yeah, the plane looks nice, I guess. It's a little bit weird for my taste, but yeah, it's two Mustangs. It's double the freedom. It's not to love. Alright, next up we have another American plane. This one is a jet, the F-84B Thunderjet. This plane, if I'm not mistaken, in real life, its main role was as a ground attacker. And in-game, this variant at least, receives no bombs, no rockets. All the armament that it has is those 6 forward-facing M3 machine guns. And my initial impressions of the aircraft are not particularly good. Its acceleration is very poor. Top speed seems lower than I expected. I don't know the exact top speed this thing was supposed to have, but it's not particularly great in-game. I could barely get off the runway. Yeah, it's it doesn't look like a very good aircraft right now, and if I had to guess, I would say that this aircraft was probably given the temporary flight model of a P-80A. That is in game, but I did not get to test fly that one because I didn't have any golden eagles to unlock it. So yeah, this aircraft, it has a pretty good roll rate, but it's pretty unimpressive in every other area. Alright, and the next plane that I'm going to be going over is the Spitfire Mark 22. There's also the Mark 24, but I couldn't unlock that one, just like the P-80A, because I didn't have any golden eagles on the dev server to unlock it with, and so I just had to settle with just flying this one. But it looks much better than my initial impressions of the plane. When I first went on the dev server, it had the placeholder of a Typhoon 1B late, and now it seems a little bit better. It has WEP now. It has much better acceleration, it turns better, it rolls better, it climbs better. It seems pretty good from initial impressions. I didn't actually do any research on how the plane should actually fly, but it seems at least close to accurate. It's believable, I'll put it that way. This plane has a few weird quirks about it, though. It's one of the only planes in the game, besides maybe the P-51 and the TA-152, planes like that haven't received any flight model changes. This is the only plane that I've been able to actually snap my wings off because of a lack of one of the new G-lock characteristics of the planes, where you lose all ability to control your aircraft for a few seconds if you exceed a certain amount of G's, because your pilot in real life is not the Terminator. He can't constantly be pulling 11 G's. But the plane does seem to have a minor amount of control stiffening, but it's not enough to keep you from breaking your wings if you're going really fast because of the lack of that G-lock characteristic. Alright, next up we have the LA-15 and LA-174. I only test flew the LA-15 because the LA-174 is just the prototype version of this plane. And overall, this plane just kind of looks like a more derpy version of the MiG-15. It's got the top-mounted wings instead of the mid-mounted wings like the MiG-15. It's basically kind of an inverted Sabre look. Instead of the 223mm cannons and the 137mm cannon, this aircraft is armed with three 23mm cannons with 100 rounds of pop. And the aircraft's handling is similar to a MiG-15. I think it's slightly better at lower speeds and slightly worse at high speeds. The aircraft climbs definitely worse than the MiG-15, but it's close to it in terms of speed. The aircraft is definitely inferior to the MiG-15 overall, but it's a nice competitor at the tier it's at. And I heard a lot of people saying that it overheats really quickly, but I flew around for about 10 minutes and it didn't overheat on me once, so it feels like a nice plane. Alright, the last of the new planes that I'm going to take a look at is the Focke-Wulf 190A1. This was a early Focke-Wulf 190, I believe 1941. This plane is tiered accordingly, so this is going to be a Focke-Wulf 190 at a battle rating of 3.3, if I'm not mistaken. So this is going to be more than a competitor, and this aircraft seal clubbed Spitfire Mark 5s in real life, and it's actually tiered under the Spitfire Mark 5 in game, so we can't wait to see what this thing's going to do. Overall, if you've flown the Focke-Wulf 190A5, the plane flies similar. It's just, as it would seem, it's just a slightly lower performance Focke-Wulf 190A5. It turns about the same, and it rolls about the same, but it's not as fast and doesn't climb as well. Alright, that's just about all I had for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope this comes out before 1.39 actually comes out. Probably won't, but I'm hopeful. Hope you guys found it informative, and I'll see you in my next video.